Hello everyone, welcome back to another kind of tutorial for the studio on Roblox. Today I'm just going to give you a kind of quick, simple guide of how to use unions on the studio. Now unions are really helpful for building and using studio in general, and they kind of take building to the next level. So as you can see here, I've got my part, just a general block, square. And you can see here, if I expand my properties, all of it's selected as a smooth outline because I want to reduce lag when loading the part in the player. Okay, so you can see here I've got my part. Now it's important that when you've got a union, you won't be able to scale it like I'm doing now. You will only be able to enlarge the union as it is. You won't be able to modify it in any way once you've actually created the union, so it's best to do any kind of part modification before you make the union. Now as you can see, I've got my part here and I want to duplicate it just quickly. So if you hit Control D on your keyboard or whatever, or you can right click and click duplicate up on the top. You can see I've now got another part. Now, first off, this is the kind of basic simple unions. As you can see, I've got two parts here. Now, if I want to be a noob or whatever, I could just group it, and then it's one thing that I can drag around. But that is still two parts, which means it will take more time to load in on a studio, depending on how many parts you've got. But that is very easily fixable. Now you can see I've got my two parts here again, not in the group anymore. But what you can do, if you select both of them, and you can either do the shortcut on your keyboard, Control Shift G, or you can go up here to Model section on the taskbar and just click Union up here on Solid Modeling, and you can now see that I've got a union. Now, what a union plainly allows you, as you can see, is that it's one part. If you see here in my Explorer, it is one part. You can see all of the properties for it here. No longer two parts. But now, as you can see, what I said earlier, you can only resize it and rescale it. You can't actually modify individual parts. You can just rescale the item. Now, a thing to add about unions is they will take up a certain amount of triangles when you union a part. So as you can see here, I've got one union. There is no actual triangle counter, but I believe you can get a plugin that tells you the triangle count of a union. But if it goes over 2,500 triangles, you won't be able to union it anymore, and that's kind of like the max amount of triangles per union you can have. So you want to kind of maximise and optimise your use of unions. So as you can see, I've got a union here. Once you've made a union, you can then union it again with another union or another part. So as you can see, I've got another kind of union thing here, which I've duplicated, and then I could just union them, and that is now one union, and it will scale as one union and everything. It's quite helpful. You can actually get it very small, so editing is quite helpful when you've got a union. Now, the parts that take up the most amount of triangles per part is the cylinder. That's kind of like one of the main, but the one that takes up the most is the sphere. Now, because this is a cylindrical kind of like orbed object, it will take a lot of triangles, as you can imagine, to surround this entire thing and make it, a locked part. So, as you can see, this scales like a union, but that's because it's a sphere. But if I were to make, I don't know, 3 of them in a stack like this, you may be able to see, I'm not sure if this is the case, but you can see that they've kind of like got a triangular kind of formation, but this is now one union. You can see that there's kind of like a creasing here on the part, but that is now one thing. But as you can see, if you start to make a lot of them, and certainly if it's a particular kind of detailed shape, it will take up a lot more triangles, and then the more you make, the more triangles it uses up. Now, as you can see, my union has been rejected. You may not be able to see that actually, but just in case, my union, I'll read out. This union would be 3,156 triangles, and there is a 2,500 triangle limit per union. So I can close that. As you can see, it hasn't tried to union it. Now, sometimes if the data files are unstable, it will actually delete the entire union or part that you've selected. So you can just click undo up here, and that will bring it back. Now, there is another thing you can do. You can see I've got my union here. You can do this with both parts and unions. You can actually negate this part, so make it a negative part, by doing Control-Shift-N on your keyboard, or just going up to the top on Models taskbar and negate here. As you can see, I've got this negated part. It's kind of glowing red. Well, not glowing, but you know, a red kind of item. Now, you can actually position this within a part, and as you will now see, whoops, as you will now see, it should remove, as you can see, any of the part or union that it was within. So you can see it's now removed a ton of it, and this can be helpful for making like detailed kind of customized parts and stuff. But you can see I've rescaled that. And the more unions you do, the more triangles it will take up. So you want to be careful when unioning a ton of parts. But what's helpful about doing these kind of unions is you can actually take them very small, which is good for really nice detail. So you see I could do that, I could put that as like a wall kind of decoration or something, you know, in a house, I don't know. Just an idea. Now, unions, what is helpful to mention actually, is you can only union parts of different colours successfully. As you can see, that one's green. If I change this to red, you can see up here on the properties for the two items, they are both smooth plastic. So if I were to union these both, union, you can see that this is one union and the two colours have stayed the same. You know, scalable as usual, that's fine. But if I were to, let's say, change this material to diamond plate, you can see there is a contrast now. If I were to union that, it will usually take the part that is the biggest, has the biggest kind of mass within the union, and it will change the material to all the other parts that you select to that the material. So if it's a different, so say look at this one, this is smooth plastic. If I union that, it will either change it smooth plastic, as you can see, or if the, say this part is bigger, let me undo that, separate, if this part is bigger, the likelihood is the material will change to diamond plate, as you can see. So you should probably be aware of that when making unions. So colours are fine, you can do that, but different materials usually won't work at all well unless you want it to do so. As you can see, just as a kind of an example, this is all one union, which is a combination of separate unions, which I've used negated parts to kind of curve this area here and make kind of a angled effect on the gun piece, and then these are parts up here. That's a cylinder going straight through, but yeah, you can actually go into a lot of detail when doing unions. Yeah, so as you can see, you've just got this part, and then if I wanted to, I could duplicate that. This is just my building set here, and then I could negate that, Control-Shift-N, and join it to this union. But what you will find is that this part here is actually smooth plastic, so when I make the union with this negated part onto the metal, you will see that the colour has changed, because this was a medium stone grey part and this is a green part. So that be aware, when you use negated parts onto a union, you want the negated, unless you want this colour contrast, you want the negated part to be the same material preferably and the same colour. So if I show you quickly, if I undo that and make this a normal part, you want to make this, I don't know what colour that was actually, camo. Right, so let's find camo on here, there you go. You want to make this the same colour, oh geez, as you can see, you know, I've just unioned that with a normal cylinder, but you can then negate the part and union it, and now you can see that there is like an indent into it that the cylinder is left, but it is all the same colour, so that's fine. So I hope you guys now have a better understanding of how you can use unions, how they work, etc. Really is quite unlimited, to be honest. Obviously there is the limit of the triangles, but other than that, it's really such a helpful thing that you can do to make building in the studio a lot easier, and you can go into a lot more detail. So I hope this has helped some of you, and if it has, make sure you leave a like, share it with other people if you know they're having issues with the studio, and you can put comments for improvements, or you know, just what you thought of the video, or suggestions for other tutorials I could do. There is a link in the description I've left for a place where I put in a lot of my builds, so if you want to check that out, give me some feedback for some of my builds, that'd be really helpful. But yeah, other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed, I hope this helped, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Thank you.